Hello, everybody. It's Tom of 6 Plus here, and welcome back to State of Play. It's been a little while, our faction specialist show where we get in depth on key armies in the game, but we are back after a little WTC rest, and where better to start than with a faction that actually we've not seen a ton of at the top in recent times, but we are currently seeing topping the ITC, which is very, very exciting. And I've got a good buddy here from recent Team England adventures, the one and only Kyle Grundy, or Commander Puretide, as he is known in some circles. Kyle, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
Pleasure.
that hasn't sunk in yet, I will be honest. You know, the 24 years of being ridiculed for being the towel guy, the fish man. And then I'm now in a position where I'm like, how the hell did this happen? Where I'm currently number one in the ITC with towel. And it's like, sod you, meditators.
Yeah, so good. It's a very good feeling. You love to see it. And it's I literally started doing this show because I love getting faction specialists on to talk about their armies, and you just see them in a whole different light. And so I was casting around after WC thinking, who are we going to get? It's like, well, Kyle I've been wanting to get for a while, and he's currently soaring. So we've got a very exciting few months ahead to see if he can bring that home. It's an amazing position to be in.
It is, and I think I've said this before on my own YouTube channel and to my students and stuff. I think the one thing, there's a couple of reasons why this has happened. It's not just because of obviously my skill with the faction. I think in a couple of things, it's persistence and hard work with something that you love and you're passionate about, and you are naturally going to put in the reps and the practice that you need to perfect your craft. So it's a kind of like a little bit of a beacon for people that are out there that do love their own factions and that can do really well if you just put in the grind, but also understand the state of 40k. A lot of patterns happen in this game, like anything. There's always an algorithm. There's always like things will change, meta will change, armies. Certain armies will do well, certain armies will fall off the cliff. And it's just understanding that trend and planning for it. I think planning's key when you go into events, and if you can put your work in and get that rep that you need with your army, and then also understand the meta, that's two big components already covered. And the third one, there is a little bit of luck, obviously. But I think for me as well, the community side of it, since I've started the Puretide program, has been a massive accelerator for me.
Yes.
It's not just me doing it for myself, it's me doing it for, and I'm sorry for the pun, the greater good. But like, there's lots of things in 40k that accelerate people's performance. Take the Team England and the community that we've got behind there. Like, when you're performing for a greater cause than just yourself, it actually takes the pressure off and it allows you to focus more. And I think all of that combined that I've mentioned is probably the reason why I'm currently sitting at the top. And I don't see it as an easy ride going forward. We've got plenty of big events coming up to the running of the end of the season. And I want to be challenged, and I want to have people come out there and challenge that top spot, because that's the fun. It's the competitive nature in me. So really proud. And I'm not going to use that phrase, because the last time we used the phrase of coming home or whatever it is,
it didn't work out.
But
don't call it too early, but just work hard, right? That's
I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing, and hopefully I can.
Well, fingers crossed for you, man. I'd love to see that. I think that'd be really, really cool. And it's for Tau to do it in an edition where, let's face it, like the consensus around Tau has simply not been one of, oh, this is a super, super strong army. It's been obvious throughout that people who know the army well can do great things with it, but it's not had that sort of sugar rush of, oh, this is the best crazy thing. So to do it in a year like that, I think would probably be one of the most rewarding ITC runs anyone could possibly get, right? So let's see it. Let's see it. Absolutely. And if you haven't checked out Puretide Program, obviously, if you're a Tau man, Kyle is the Tau man, and there is an enormous Puretide program out there to be accessed. Discord and socials and all that stuff, where Kyle can help level you up and get the most out of the fishmen. Absolutely. I think your background with Tau is very well known. You've played them for your whole life, more or less.
Pretty much, yeah.
But if we were thinking about how you see the kind of character and place of the army in the game, and I think they do have a very particular character. What is Tau's kind of role in the overall competitive game? What makes this faction special? What sorts of things do you need to understand as fundamentals going into playing Tau as an army?
So usually I'd go in straight in with the obvious, but I'm going to go in with the hardest lesson and the longest lesson, but it actually doesn't need to be it can be actually sussed out very quickly.
Yeah.
It's understanding the core fundamentals of the actual rules in 40k.
Yeah.
Because Tau, like a few other armies out there, they are a kind of an anomaly. So they don't operate in two of the phases. I mean, I say two of the phases. Like the psychic abilities used to be its own phase, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Mind bullets. Well, like but combat. So combat. If you ask any combat specialist or someone that loves combat armies, they don't just see it as a mechanism for damage. They see it as a mechanism for extra movement and applying pressure on board control.
Yeah.
So when you're not innately designed to operate in that phase, you just ignore it and gloss over it.
Yeah.
And that's the first error, because what you get caught out on is a combat specialist going, okay, well, I'm going to charge in such a way where I'm going to move my back models first, block,
Yes.
and then have these models pile in, consolidate. Oh, I've got this stratagem for 6-inch pile in, 6-inch consolidate. And then I've got this ability where I can tag you and blah, 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 blah. So if you don't understand that, then you're always going to be on the back foot.
Yes.
So a lot of my experience from the early doors was being caught out by that exact scenario that I'm telling you about. And it was the fall of, many of my events. I'd do really well on day 1, day 2. I'd get absolutely smashed by Tony Chu or anybody from England. And it was because their understanding of the core rules was superior to mine.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't have the ability to do that. It's because I couldn't be arsed reading the bloody rules. And I just gloss over it.
Yeah.
But when I started to focus on that, when Tau were trash and like a 20% win rate, I was using the charge phase as my free fire and fade.
Exactly.
I was using like clever ways to get myself into position. So I think Tau, if you focus on the worst thing that's for the army, like combat, it will tick off that big learning curve early, and then the rest of the stuff is just fast gun is good gun, right?
Yeah.
And the 40k speed is king. So you, in answer to your question, Tau are very mobile.
They are.
They are an army that is designed to, even by the law, not to stay in dogfights and on unwinnable situations. They will retreat and come up with a new plan if the plan is not working. And I think from a tactical perspective in 40k, the way that secondaries work, secret missions, primaries, all that kind of stuff, we've got all those mechanics in the game that need you to be flexible as a general. So naturally, as a Tau player, by law, by gameplay, you have got the speed and you've got the tools to deal with whatever situation is in front of you, providing that you manage your resources correctly and you understand how the game scoring works. Point to win games, damage is irrelevant. And a lot of the coaching and the teaching that I do is all about, well, all right, let's say me and you are playing Tom and you're a combat army and I'm a shooting army. I'm like, right, well, we're going to play a game where I'm not allowed to shoot you and you're not allowed to hit me in the face. How do you play the game then? Well, you've got points, your positioning, your move blocking, all those trading.
Beautiful.
You're not killing each other, but it's like, then suddenly it's like, I'm going to charge to get as many OC on the objectives, so on and so forth. So you're looking at the fundamentals of the game, which will obviously inevitably help you. And then the rest of the stuff you just learn by repetition and going, oh, well, this profile is very good into this profile, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So Tau in the meta, I see as a very balanced Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
And a lot of my analysis when I go into events is based around, let's have a look at the top 5 armies and let's have a look at a couple of the mid-table menaces.
Yeah.
And then I analyze what their strengths are and then look at my profiles within the codex and go, this is what I need to be in a good position going into this event.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be one army that's like, hello, you didn't plan for me. And it's like, oh, go away, Admech. But if you plan and you look at the correct units that you have available to you, I think Tau is one of the most balanced codexes in the entire of this new edition of 40k, because our win rate has literally stayed at like 48 in that little window that GW won.
Completely.
So it's completely balanced.
Yeah.
There have been times, like you said, that sometimes Tau have gone whoosh straight to Tom, Dick, and Harry goes, oh, I've played Tau. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nas, but yes, Nas, you can borrow half of my army. But yeah, in answer to your question, they are very balanced, and I think that from lore to actually how you use it as a general are pretty much entwined together, and I like them. for that.
Yeah, so it's mobility, it's precise strikes, it's careful use of your sort of elite resources, but they've obviously got disposable resources. That's one of the things I love about Tau, actually. And the thing that appeals to me is, you've got blocking and chaff and throwaway stuff. There's and transports, all the little things that give you mission options are there. And it's, as you say, the very best Tau players. It's the same as, you after turn 1 into a Blood Angels player, you know what kind of Blood Angels player you're playing, right? And either you're like, oh, fantastic, or you're like, oh, here we go, this is going to take ages. And Tau are the same, where after a couple of turns, you're like, okay, if they are charging, moving, blocking, tying up, all sorts of other things that, as you say, we don't actually associate with the main strength that they have, but actually, as you say, are so pivotal to playing the game effectively, then you're like, okay, now we're dealing with an enormous problem, because that then takes their strength, which is their incredible guns, up another level, because your opponent has more problems in front of them before they can even start dealing with the guns.
Yeah, and you play Votan, right?
Yeah.
This thing. Okay, so when I think about going against Votan, I'll think big Tonka trucks, Predators, units of bikes, and berserks everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's something that I will come to expect. But if you turned up with like the maximum amount of Hearthstone warriors, right, and then all the bodies in a horde Votan, people will be like, "What the hell is this? How do I deal with this? I think I might lose this game because they rush at me with all the carpet of dwarves." Same can be said about Tau. If I turn up with decent combat, and we'll get onto that later, and they're like, "Wait, what? Oh god, I've not planned for this." So that's the other spicy thing I like, of going against the grain and thinking, well, we're trash at combat, but actually I'm going to take this to upset the meta and upset that kind of status quo. So there's a lot of things that you can do to keep your opponents on their toes.
And that's where I think the 10th edition rule set, and especially the way codexes are designed, it just tees you up as a specialist, because you cannot be techful, because there are 4 pathways and they are each different, and the toolkit you can apply is different in each one. And you look at it with Necrons, we were talking about this on the show yesterday, it's like, I can't tech for Necrons because I don't know which version of Necrons I'm going to see. I can put all this effort into killing a Catan, and then I can turn up against a list that doesn't have any. And so and that's the power of the new books, I think, is that they genuinely reward different pathways within a big army. And armies with a big range like Tau, and with a good suite of weapons and tools, can really, really exploit that. Which is where we're going to go next, Kyle, because I think the Tau Codex itself, I think it's had mixed opinions on it from some people. But I'm very curious now, sitting here a good chunk of time in, after a couple of little balance runs and tweaks, what's your overall assessment of the Tau Codex and the options that you have got as a player there?
So there's 2 options right now, and there is Kyle, which is the old reliable, and there's Retaliation. These are both perfectly situated for the meta right now. Bear in mind, yes, like you said, we've got a balanced data slate on the way. Things can change, but right now, Kion and Retaliation. Simply because combat meta, Kion's got the perfect tools. You get in and out of a Delphish, when charged, etc. You can make charges harder, -2 to charge. And then obviously you've got the drug, which is sustain hits 2. I'm just going to get busy blasting.
People never recover from that.
They really don't. They really don't. What do you mean you've got 10 shots on your 6 Riptide? What do you mean? What do you mean? I deleted my entire family tree with 1 unit. Right? You know what I mean? It goes back to that 6 bricker crisis loop. You can just do it with a 3-man with sustain hits 2. So on and so forth. And then Retaliation. So Tau, if you think about the combat meta right now, Tau usually struggle with terrain. Because terrain can be used in beautiful ways with combat armies, and be like, you're not going to charge me, you're Tau. I'm going to be right up against the wall, and then I'm going to run at you. So, what does Retaliation do? Well, I don't give a beep about terrain. I'm just going to 3-inch deep strike and touch them in bad places.
As an elf player, this was the one I read and was like, just this one, man. Just run this, because this ruins my day every time.
It turns out that what's really good in 40k is being able to 3-inch deep strike and fire and fade.
So good.
So I've got this 3 crisis suits and a commander dropping in, doing the damage, then also firing and fading on an objective, and my OC is 8. So a tactical thing for you newer players out there, or people that are trying to learn the game, it is a common thing, a common mistake that people will just put the minimum OC on there, and then somebody will go, here's 5 scouts, or my little MSU piece goes, I've denied you. So most people will put OC6 on an objective just to stop that.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really stop that because 3 crisis suits alone is OC6, and with a commander it's OC8. So dropping in, doing damage, firing and fading, denying primary. So I've killed, I've denied primary. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful unit. And it really, I think it's the most crisis I've seen them feel, right? Precise, precision strike, drop down, it'll eliminate a target and swing a crucial objective all in one go.
And the
Absolutely bonkers.
the other thing as well that's really powerful when I was playing around with it in the Leeds GT Super Major was that I was just going, usually I'm the one having to put loads of effort in screening and planning and pre-measuring out and watching my opponent trying to screen 3-inch deep strikes and waste a lot of their time and their resources to try and stop this. I was there going, well, it's interesting that you're doing that. I'm obviously never going to deep strike there anyway, but you crack on, buddy.
You have to act like they could, Kyle. It's maddening.
It's really funny when, and the thing is, when it comes to top level competitive play between players that understand the game, take me and Jack's game on the semi-finals, and I just said, Jack, just 8.9 between units will suffice because you know I'm on a 2-inch base and just do that. He's like, oh, cheers, thanks, that. We already know that this game is going to be won whoever goes first or second. Let's just cut the crap. But that's really powerful. So Kion and Retaliation are situated perfectly. The other 2 detachments are good for like kind of mid-table games, and there's been a hero somewhere in the world who went 5-0 on recruit, and I'm like going,
I think it might have been James Marsden did that down the road from me. Yeah,
I was like, hats off, sir. Respect.
He's an absolute mad lad. So,
mad respect. So unfortunately, those 2 detachments are falling below the waistline, but I expect something might happen, especially with the recruits in the advanced data state.
I'd hope so, because they caught some strays in the last balance pass that actually I don't think they really deserved, right? Because they weren't a problem in the game.
No.
They were good, but they weren't a problem.
We were just having a recruit party and just laughing, and then suddenly, like the Necrons, recruit were like, wait, what? Why?
Should we? I think it's useful. You've centered this on the meta. And I think that's really good. So if we think about, I mean, to my knowledge, you've kind of been favouring Retaliation Cadre a little bit more recently, right? Is that a fair assessment?
I've been wanting to practice with it because it's a new puzzle to solve.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
I've already solved Kion with the War Masters list, which is brutal and did it exactly what I planned to. So that is perfect.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it alone, put it in the trophy cabinet, and then work on something new.
Yeah. And would you say, in terms of their matchups, what's the kind of? I mean, if we take the example of your War Masters list with the Carrion, what's the kind of, as you see it, what's your play and tools into the current meta menaces with that? What about that have you designed? How have you designed that to get around some of the current sort of big bads? Although, as you say, it's such a diverse game right now. There's actually a lot of big bads.
So I designed it to deal with T-Suns and the Blood Angels specifically.
Yep.
And then if I can tackle those 2, then I'm going to be able to tackle everybody else because they're going to tech into those.
Yeah.
A couple of anomalies, which I'll talk about, but the key thing was we were seeing a lot of these big bricks. These Death Company bricks. Vanguard, so on and so forth, Vanguard vets. So I looked at the crisis suits and thought the Fire Knife ability with the unit's really good because you get to full rerolls to hit at the full starting strength and then reroll 1s if they're not.
Yeah.
But you're not interested in the reroll 1s. You're going to get full rerolls to hit.
Which in Carrion, as we know, gets really, really good.
So the statistics that I ran, and people use apps and stuff like that. I'm old school. I'm like, grab a bag of dice and let the deck roll until I get the result that I need. So it was a commander with the example of Kion being able to put pressure on turn 2. And the reason that was important is because people will stage against me turn 2 behind terrain, so on and so forth. So being able to actually push this unit out from a rapid ingress if I'm going second, then move out, then kill, and then overwatch. And the perfect combination that you can actually do is that you can rapid ingress if something's trying to charge your objective to take you off it.
Yeah.
You can overwatch them at full starting strength. It's turn 2. You get full rerolls. You kill that unit. Then you move out. Then you kill. And then they move out.
Triple tapping.
And then you overwatch again and kill them. They're like, oh my God.
And so as long as you're picking fresh targets, you're getting the rerolls, you're getting all of the good stuff.
And the commander has 3 shots with plasmas, 3 shots with cyclics, which statistically become 5 because you fish for 6s because you can't move. and then you just go, right, cool, AP3 flat 3, perfect into Vanguard Vet with 5 up Feel No Pain, and then the unit's doing 6 plasmas. Now you shoot your commander first because he's got the best chance of getting the 6s, and then with that information, you then shoot your crisis suits afterwards to know if you need to fish for any cheeky extras. And it just absolutely deletes loads. In War Masters, I shot into 10 Death Company with Lamarties, and I killed 10, left Lamarties on full wounds, and then the moment he twitched, he died from overwatch. So it was just crazy. I'm Blood Angels player, but that was the tech.
Yeah, so perfect marine hunting profiles.
T-Sons, it was this unit, the same unit, can split fire. The crisis can kill 5 rubrics with the character, and the commander can kill 5 rubrics. So you can literally take off 6 Cabal points off them and 2 units. And if you got a bit cheeky, you could potentially kill another character as well.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
And breaks them, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sky Rays were an addition to give me some form of anti-tank, but also to hunt down Magnus with full rerolls to hit because he's fly, and full rerolls to wound because they're twin linked. And just go, hello, Magnus. And I think the other thing about T-Sons is it's not an assured victory, but the one thing that I taught my students in the War Masters masterclass was the ability to just block out where their filthy wizards can go, so then the Magnus can't get his powers off as easily. So that I was teched for that, and I was also teched around, mobility. So hence why I had 2 Fire Knife teams with Farsight and Cold Star. It was 2 Breacher Fish, Dark Strider, Pathfinder 3 Stealth, 3 Riptides, Iron Riptides, and 2 Sky Rays. But I was planning around the most difficult terrain for Tau, which has always been WTC. Tau can't operate on WTC, yada, 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 yada. I was like, well, I'm going to design a list that works on WTC. And it did. And I did go into Blood Angels. I didn't go against T-Sons, but my close friend and member of the Puretide Program since I started, Zorro, went against T-Sons and he 15-5'd them with the list. And then other people and the students went against like Blood Angels as well and T-Sons and did good. So the list worked, and it worked on the WTC format, so it ticked all the boxes. The downsides to this list was my first round was against Crusher Stampede. And I'm like, oh, I did predict this.
Yeah.
It turns out if somebody passes all their 6+ armor saves with an Exocrine, it does help them. And it was just one of those ones where, typical game where my damage was connecting, but his saves were, saving way more than average.
Yeah.
And so I really felt the pinch and nothing was connecting, which was frustrating. But I just decided to go, right, I'm not shooting anymore. I'm just going to focus on points.
Just mission.
I got 83 versus 81, so it was a draw by the WTC scoring. And then I went into a guard list straight after, which was just mass bodies and 1 Rogue Dawn and a few tanks, but it was all bodies. And I was like, oh man, this is kind of anti what I'm going for. Drew against that because he managed to just pit me on a primary with like 22 versus 21 OC or something like that. No. And then the rest of it, that's when I was going into all the meta choices that I was creating, and that's why I went undefeated. But that list is perfect.
And that, I think you can see so much of the thought process there. And this is the meta you need to be in now, which is you need to understand what else is out there, how it works. You need to understand your own army so well that I grab this, I grab that. That deals with these things. Yeah. You don't worry about it. The powerful armies, no powerful army right now is so good that you cannot spec and design to give it huge problems, especially when you've got the edge in terms of understanding and player skill, right? So that's really, really cool. And again, without putting our team's hat on, you also cannot literally cannot be built for everything in one go. It's very difficult. Like, so you sometimes you chalk those up and it happens, and you don't lose sleep over it. I'm designing to do X, Y, Z. You don't sweat the losses if it's a case of, well, this is just one of the ones I can't be reckoning with at the same time.
And it was really interesting on that one, because when I went against the NID player and the guard player, I was having, War Masters and WTC General is a lovely social event and players from around the world. I said, out of curiosity, what's your list actually designed to be? And every single person was like, T-Sons, Blood Angel. I was like, so am I. And they were like, have you played one yet? Well, clearly no.
They didn't want to go, did they?
We're playing each other. And then I finally went into Blood Angels and I managed to 20-0 them. He got 20 points, including painting. So it was just the whole shock and awe of like, I don't like this. I feel like I'm being Blood Angel. It was like, I've designed my list specifically to hunt me down. And it wasn't quite the Manny list. It had 4 bricks rather than 3 bricks. So it was like, but still, it was just like, this is disgusting. Stop shooting me in the face. I'm already dead.
And I think there is a case, isn't there, for saying that again, now that the game is more balanced, actually, if you go, oh, I'm going to try and go for the thing everyone's saying is just that little bit better, then it's like, well, congrats. Everyone is gunning for you and knows exactly what you're going to be using. So actually, it almost becomes a bit counterproductive, doesn't it? It becomes a real risk. You've got to keep creating and innovating now. Otherwise, you will, if it's a known quality, it's very easy for someone good to have your number before the game's even started, right?
And I think you've hit the nail right on the head there. And I think it's a double-edged sword for us. It's a positive thing for us because I suppose if you like for the rest of the world, I apologize, but like if you think of UK and USA, right?
Yeah.
You've got Art of War that play with each other all the time with 40k, and then they obviously learn the top lists and then they prep for the top list. And the UK is to say the same. We can say the same. Like I know that Manichima is going to run spam hammer of some sort. Everybody knows that I'm going to have a Tau Filth, Nassim with his guard, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So we get that information because we're constantly exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then anybody else only has the internet or these shows like ourselves that were talking about these top lists. So the work has already been done.
Yeah.
But then for a top player that running a certain faction or a certain thing, then for me, I was like, War Masters, if I take it to Leeds, people are clearly going to have looked at it and analysed it. So I'm going to take something different. So I'm constantly thinking about trying to be one step ahead. But I think a lot of this at the moment with 40k is that someone will come up with a spice and then everybody else will copy it, which then is actually easier for you to plan going into the event.
So much so.
Look at John Lennon's Marine Gladius. Okay, it was everywhere. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be a good portion of the field.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier to plan for events because one innovator, then everybody copies it and follows suit.
Yeah, and I think people are still so used to, we've come out of Ninth where I think the raw power of these new builders they came through was so much that you could take it and you'd be like guaranteed 3 wins basically as a start point, right? And I think people have still got that habit. But what I'm loving about 10th is that doesn't cut any ice, right? You can turn up with the thing that someone's told you to take, but it's going to come down to your understanding and how prepped you are, and that's where the faction specialism is awesome because you can just have, I know your army super well. You have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah,
let's go.
It's almost like even though it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but you start to create your own library of like everything. Like over the years that I've played, it's like I'm no longer shocked at what armies do because if you think 3 years ago, I guarantee you it's going to come full circle and be back again. It's like, a Blood Angels army with advance and charge. Not like that existed before. Or Chaos with some really weird janky stuff that you can't do anything about. Like the one my mate was explaining to me is the one where I can't remember what detachment it is, but if you attack them in combat, you basically get the free grenade strat against them.
Yes,
with Warp Talons and Raptors and go, I've tagged everything. How many attacks has your Riptide got? 6. How many attacks has your Breachers got? 10. Just all that kind of weird stuff.
Bonkers, isn't it?
You end up being able to kind of like store all that information because you don't have to focus on learning a new faction yourself, and you basically get a plethora of information that you can hold on to and adapt and work around, and then just apply that knowledge when you get to the battlefield. So,
100%.
Faction specialists have definitely got a tough ride at some points, but they definitely have an advantage over people that swap in armies because you can just focus on knowing the enemy.
I think it's felt like a fantastic sort of 6 months for faction specialists, and fingers crossed that's what we see continuing as well. Let's talk about leads then. So if we think about leads and you've identified, okay, I've done a thing at War Masters.
Yeah,
I'm going to do something different, keep people guessing, keep innovating, keep changing. So talk about the kind of process of design and what you came up with for leads and how you managed to build on what you've done before.
Yeah, so I got pissed in Mechelen, and then
yes, you did. I was there.
and then I realised, oh shit, I've got to submit my list for leads, and then submitted a list that I was like, yeah, this will be good. And then when the list submission was over, I was like, I gone fucked up. But what I wanted to do, I'll talk through the list. So the list was built around the power of retaliation. So speed, suits, more suits, stratagems, done. So I put in our bad boy, our Commander Farsight, because his ability to reduce a stratagem is just insane.
Yeah.
Especially with 3-inch deep strike for 2 CP.
Yeah, because that detachment is a thirsty one, isn't it? So you want them. Yeah.
So Commander Farsight, and then I just went 2 Cold Stars, one of them with the prototype weapon system gives him lethal sustained. Both the Cold Stars were armed the same, the 3 plasmas, the cyclic, 2 shield drones each. and then an Enforcer commander with the uppy downy Starflare ignition system to be able to just do jank early and keep constantly putting them under pressure. And then Dark Strider because he can just say no to enemies' secret missions and area denial.
Yes, he can. He's really useful right now.
So in our practice games with Team England, when I was just playing around with Retcad to try and teach the team, I realised that actually removing breaches from any tile list is kind of bad because they give you a very designated role, which is I can go out, I can get secondaries for you, I can also deny primary, and you need that in every list.
Yeah.
So I put into Breacher Devilfish just as a kind of this is my primary tool, and obviously you can't get to my squishy stuff because you have to deal with a vehicle.
That's it. It's getting in the way as much as anything, isn't it? They just give you that mess, and it's cheap. It's cheap enough. Yeah,
cheap enough, good package, and also can act as a screen. And Retaliation Cadre is very powerful for board control, but without these pieces like long screens, breaches, devilfish, so on and so forth, you're going to struggle sometimes.
Yeah.
So breaches that were in there, and then let's talk about the juiciness, the crisis suits. So
here we go. This is what I wanted to hear, man. I'm delighted they're back. I've missed them.
The Fire Knife, that ability that I mentioned before is just so good. It's like the Tetra rerolls, but not as cancerous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's 2 of them had all the plasmas because it's great into the meta. The flat 3 damage AP3, great against Dark Angels, great against Blood Angels, so on and so forth. Anything that's got a decent save and multiple wounds. Bulgrin, okay, you can -1 damage, but I'm still flat 2. That's kind of what I had in mind. So 2 of those, and obviously crisis. All my crisis units are armed with the same drones. You do a marker drone, gun drone on the team leader, and then a shield drone, gun drone on the other 2. Simply for bring it down to keep them under the 15 wounds, so it only gives away 2 on bring it down.
Nice.
So then the third Fire Knife team is all with the missiles. The idea is goes with the missile commander, goes uppy downy, shoots at range, lots of shots. And can really benefit from a stratagem, which I'll go on to in a second, which is called the Archon Protocol.
Ooh.
Then Star Scythe, they're just so effective. For 110 points to have 3 crisis suits that can just go, here's Daka or here's Flames, is just so good.
It haunts my Drakari dreams. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, a unit of Flamer Star Scythes, good for Overwatch, and a unit of Bursts.
Yeah.
And then this is the drunk brain and the arrogance going, I'll be fine. 1 Sunforge unit. That's the ones with the invuln and the reroll wounds and damage against tanks and monsters. And the Melter. And then a Pathfinder team, 3 stealth, and then 2 cheeky Vespid units.
Oh, I love Vespid.
Yep. So it was designed for WTC War Masters terrain. But I looked at it afterwards, I was like, I've only got 1 form of anti-tank. Better not go into loads of tanks. And I hit Jack Tight in the semi-final.
Yeah. Every single time you hit Breeze of Flame, you're like, God damn it. It's like, there's just not the tank skew in the game right now in quite the same way, but then you hit that and you're like, oh, this is a mess. This is a real mess.
So then we've got, if you look at the composition of the list, so we've got 4 commanders and we've got 18 crisis suits. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 crisis
suits. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
So many crisis suits.
Yeah.
It's too many crisis suits after the Leeds reflection. I was like, on most of my games, I was operating between 9 and 15 crisis suits still in reserve by turn 3. Cool. I'm just waiting, and then descend.
Yeah.
So it's too many crisis suits, but the whole thing is you got a couple of stratagems. I've mentioned 2 of them already: the 3-inch deep strike and the fire and fade.
Yeah,
that's just obvious.
Yeah,
the feel no pain 6+ can help you in sometimes with damage 2s, and then the other one that I really like is the Archon Protocol. So specifically the burst and the plasmas. So I was talking about my Kion list with the sustain hits 2 against big bricks. Well, the Archon Protocol, if you're targeting a unit that has 6 or more models, it's sustain hits 1. If it's 11, it's sustain hits 2. Okay. So you basically get to replicate what the power from Kion.
Still do it. Yeah, beautiful. Then, so Lamarty's brick still gets to eat shit.
Exactly, right? But then the other thing is that this stratagem can be flexed and used on any of 3 units. You don't really do it on Fusion because Fusion's not going into mass units, right? But it's the plasmas for the sustain hits 2. It's the bursts with 24 shots. And then also the missile units, which is doing 12 strength 7 AP 1, 2 damage, and then 8 shots from the commander with his missiles. So the detachment rule is when you're within 12, you get +1 strength. If you're within 6, you get +1 AP.
Yeah.
So you can at any given point do that if you want the extra AP. Your missile unit, for example, could go to AP2 at damage 2, or your plasmas could go to AP4.
Yeah.
And then your bursts are plus, your star scythe have a rule where it's +1 AP if you're targeting anything that's not a monster or a vehicle. So if you drop them within 6 with the stratagem, you're suddenly AP2. And 24 shots with sustain hits 2 at AP2. If you're targeting something that's 11 or more models, or even 6, it's sustain hits 1. It's beautiful and can be used on all these 3 units. Now, the characters alone, this is the power of the retaliation. I go into a matchup and I go, well, I don't need Farsight's +1 to wound within 9 because he hasn't got any bloody tanks, or I'm not really bothered about it. So I'm going to put Farsight in the burst unit.
Yeah.
So then suddenly I'm going against Marines. I could be wounding Marines on 2s. I could be wounding anything that's toughness 5 on 2s at strength 6 +1 to wound, AP2, 24 shots, so get wrecked.
It's just so good.
So you can flex your commanders.
Yeah. So you're putting different characters where they're needed.
Yeah. You've got that. And this is unusual, right? And this is the anomaly that helps retaliation in the meta, because usually lists are designed with specific things. My character is going to go in this unit, so on and so forth. It buffs this unit, therefore I'm going to put it in there, like the biologists or whatever, in the eradicators, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's automatically signaled. But with Retcad, you get to the table and look at your opponent's force and go, right, I now have a thing where I can customize my army against you, and it's perfectly legal.
Yeah.
So I
good.
get to change
Yeah.
my normal game plan to give me an advantage against you.
That's so cool.
And that is really cool. So you get the flexibility of customizing where your commanders go. Because if you put a plasma guy, a cold star with a star scythe, his plasma rifles can go to AP5 because they get an extra AP for targeting non-monsters or vehicles. And if you get within 6, it's another AP. So they're AP3 normal, AP5. And then cyclic goes to AP2 overcharged, AP3, AP4. It's just, you can go nuts with them.
Yeah.
And then you can also use that unit to kind of move out, shoot, fire, and fade to keep clearing screens. So you can use the burst unit to go, 10 Katachan jungle fighters, 10 Katachan jungle fighters. I'm going to kill those and then fire and fade. You can do loads of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
it's beautiful.
The other thing to add, the Arakan protocol as well, is with the combination of the prototype weapon system, you can have your commander there with the lethals, and then also get sustained. And then the let me just double check it. The Arakan protocol. So the Arakan protocol isn't specific to one enemy unit. It says one Tau Empire battlesuit unit that has not been selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit that contains 6 or more models, it has sustain its 1, or if it has 11 or more, it sustains 2. So you can actually just go and shoot everything. It's crazy. It's crazy good.
That's really good. Really good. Yeah, so Retaliation, when I read the rules for the new book, I was like, that's the one. That just makes my heart sing. It just looks so cool. And it feels like the nudges down on Crisis have got it to a place now where it's very viable, very dangerous. And Crisis themselves, would you say, have you adapted to them being in different chunks now? Have you got your head around that?
Straight away, I loved it because lore on the old books, the 3rd edition Tower Codex, they used as scalpels, as small little insertion units.
Yeah.
And I love customizable roles. So it's not just, I will take this 6-man Breaker Crisis and delete everything. It's, I want this unit, and that unit to do this particular thing. And that's what I love. Anything that gives you variety.
And agency, right? So much say and control. Yeah.
Oh, good. So I'm always a positive individual anyway, to my own detriment. So I was like, okay. Oh, well, I like this. Good.
Yeah, amazing. That's really exciting. And so, one sort of point of curiosity I wanted to build on as we get towards the end here, Kyle, was I'm curious if someone's sort of trying to get their head around town, get into town, start building effective town lists right now. What are the go-to tools? What do you not leave home without? Obviously, it sounds like there's quite a lot of variation across the different detachments. But what sort of the main kind of fundamentals that you keep coming back to and keep getting use out of in 10th edition?
So, I think you have to start with a core fundamental of tools for the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to pick up all the cool Gundam models and just go, I want to do damage. I mean, I get it. We're like 8-year-old kids going into a toy shop. I want that thing. I get it. But in order to that fun will wear off when you're constantly playing games and you're constantly losing and you're feeling like there's nothing that you can do,
Yeah.
and you're losing the enjoyment about playing a game, because even though it might not be on your forefront to win a game, it's still important to win games, to feel like you're improving or you're doing well.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of newer Tau players are struggling with the core understanding of the game, and obviously then trying to learn a very high skill cap army,
It really is. Yeah.
losing the faith, and then they've spent loads of money on the armies. So I think taking an approach where you just start on lower point games, because you can't just go 2,000 points and learn all the intricacies that Tau needs you to learn to be good at using them. So starting at like 500 points, 1,000 points, and just going, I'm going to put in 2 Breacher Fish. I'm going to put in 1 unit of Crisis Suits and the Commander because it's cool, right? Maybe a form of anti-tank, whether it's a Hammerhead.
Yeah.
Then you got to get your guiding unit, so a Pathfinder unit because it gives you 2 guides, and a Stealth Suit unit. That could round off a comfortable 1,000 points. I did a video on YouTube, like segmenting the 500,000, 1,500, 2,000, and you can kind of have a core structure at 1,000 points, and then keep that structure and just add to it, like an extra anti-tank or an extra elite hunter. And then just really get to grips with how the guiding mechanic works, because it's so complex.
Yes.
It's not only to an observer playing the game or the opponent, it looks at your setting of units to look at something, and then you shoot better. That's it. And that should have been written that way. Have one dude looking at one dude, other dude shoots better. Done.
Yeah.
But actually what's happening behind a skill general using the guiding is that I'm setting up this one unit to not only guide multiple units if I need to, like fail-safes, I'm also setting them up for actions, and then I'm also setting up my shooting unit. But if that doesn't connect, I need another unit that can then back it up. And then I've got this other unit over. It's so complex, and it takes a lot of time.
It really is.
So focus on utilizing that special rule to perfection, and then the rest of it is easy. Good gun into good target, so on and so forth. That's basic 40k shooting.
Yeah.
Then we combat it. So I apply this damage to that thing that is good at killing. Everything else needs to be focused on. So that's my advice, is focus on the fundamentals. Don't take on too much. Have smaller games. And when you feel comfortable with that mechanic and that you're becoming quite skilled with it, then branch out to more.
And what detachment would you recommend a newer player to start on? Where would you go right now?
I'd say it depends on 2 things. It depends on your natural playing style.
Yeah.
Now, if you're completely new to the game, then you won't know. So stick with a reliable, maybe try 2. Even though I don't rate the Montcar competitively, it still is a lot of fun. And it's
it's a hell of a lot of fun,
detachment for newer players. I just want to go fast and shoot hard and ask questions later. So if you're an aggressive player, then obviously Montcar. If you're wanting more of a competitive build, go into Retaliation, because that gives you the best of both worlds, knowing when to be defensive and when to be aggressive. And then Kion, if you're a tactical player that likes to penalize your opponent for mistakes and see opportunities and lay traps, then Kion's for you. It's one of those rarities that actually the fluff and the lore and the way that Tau works in warfare is actually quite good for selecting what detachment you do as a player.
It's super good, isn't it? Yeah.
Are you an aggressive player? Well, go Montcar. Or are you a defensive player? Go Kion. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, think about that and reflect, and use the lovely app, the battle app by Goonhammer, because that gives you stats that you need to know. It gives you your go first win rate, go second win rate, informs you of your kind of natural kind of ability. If you're a go first win rate, if you've got a higher go first win rate, you're probably really good at board control and aggression, but you probably suck at resource management. If you've got a go second win rate that's higher, then you're probably really good at resource management, but you suck at board control.
It's
kind of like that kind of thing that you can really look at that data and analyze it and figure out your own play style and then build around that.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think I'm completely agree with you. I think it's a great time for Tau, especially if you're someone who knows them really well. But is there in terms of the overall balance of the units at the moment that you have and the detachments? Obviously, we've got slates coming up. Is there anything you think the army needs in terms of adjustment or alteration, or anything you'd be hoping would happen in the future?
So yes, I think the problem that they've got. And we'll focus on the Creep, because I know a lot of our nerds out there, myself included, want to hear about the Creep rather than brush under the carpet.
Yeah.
So the problem GW have got is they created a very flavorful detachment that have lots of rules that don't break the game, but are linchpinning on some powerful mechanics such as reactive moves, redeploys, lone op, regenning a unit, which is all good, but some armies were breaking it, like Guard being able to
Yes.
like Scion squads and not Catachans,
Kazakin, yeah.
all that lot, right? And Necrons, reactive move, loan up, Wraith bricks. It was a cancer for the game. But little old crew doing that wasn't breaking the game.
No.
So that core change to the rules absolutely destroyed the way that detachment kind of operates. So there needs to be a reflection on, well, what can we do with this detachment?
Yeah.
Do we do the whole age-old thing of making the points cheaper? Well, yeah, cool. You could do that, and I can just take more stuff. And do you know what? If they made Kroot way too cheap, I'd just win the game by going, here's 120 Kroot, and here's 30 Farstalkers, and here's loads of Hounds, and then I just block out the board and I win on points. Is that a fun way of playing? No. So there needs to be some sort of change to that core rule.
Yeah.
And giving it within a function, whether it be Kroot can bring back an extra unit with a War Shaper ability outside of the normal core rules.
Yeah.
Or the redeploy. Maybe you don't give it like it was, because you could redeploy after knowing who's going first, and you could redeploy it up to like 6 bloody units if you wanted to with the correct characters. Maybe say to them, like Votann with their tokens, you can redeploy X amount of units after knowing who's going first. Like, put in the rules that you've stripped away, but make it not in as much quantity as it used to. Give it back in little spaces, like one unit can redeploy or an extra unit can come back. That would help the detachment massively, rather than making it broken. So I think that needs to be addressed, but that is rewriting rules, so it's a bit tricky when GW are doing balanced data slates and want to do minimal. But we've seen it happen with Drakari.
We have seen it. Yeah, we have.
Not out the realms of possibility.
And I can't imagine, we got all the cool new models. I can't imagine they'll want to leave it in a spot where it just feels a bit damaged and not quite sorted. So I would hope it's on the radar to get attention. It's cool. It was quite a distinct detachment. I played against it when it just came out, and I actually really enjoyed playing against it. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's very flavorful, and it missions for days. It plays the mission like an absolute trooper. It's very, very good at the sort of fundamentals of the game.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where if you're predicated on regen and your damage is scaled down as a result, and then you lose the regen, it's like, well, now I'm just not doing damage, and that's a bit concerning, right?
It is, and I think the one thing that definitely can really help, and I know it's going to happen. I don't know in what in how many points they're going to get reduced by. I'm not privy to any information, but there is a really good unit that's actually good for solving Tao's main problem, which is combat. It's the Rampagers.
Yes.
I love the Rampagers, and when I ran the Kroot, decided 2 units of 6 of them, they were like, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, "Angry Monkeys, Guerrilla Time."
Yeah, they're so cool, man. They're really good.
They need to come down. They are currently 110 points for 3, so 220 for 6. If they went down to like 90 points a unit, at like 180 for 6, they're suddenly Bargain City, which would do really a wonder for the rest of the detachments as well.
Yeah.
But with Kroot, I just think they need to revisit the rules and maybe retweak a few stratagems. Like, one of them, a trap well laid, is very complex to set up. Like, I charge you with 1 Kroot unit, I attack you, the other Kroot unit can get extra AP, but you as a combat player will interrupt and slap the unit that's going to do the extra AP, so it just feels a little bit like, oh, come on. Just make it, pick a Kroot unit, extra AP in combat, bosh, gets rid of Armor of Contempt. Effectively. Little things like that, but these are small tweaks that, in my opinion, would really fix that detachment, but they can't be too heavy-handed on points reductions, because otherwise then all the other Tau detachments just get
tons of stuff. Yeah.
We're already cheap on the other detachments. Make Kroot even cheaper. And then suddenly I'm like, oh.
Okay. Just shove Kroot in front of what I was already doing. Why not?
And then the Kroot detachment stays untouched. So it's like, that's a very difficult equation to solve for GW, but they do need to look at it from a rules perspective and like other things for Kroot.
Completely.
Outside of that, I think we're actually well situated. It wouldn't surprise me if GW... Well, we don't deserve any changes to points in terms of like putting stuff up, but a common trend in balanced data slates and points adjustments is, even if you're doing quite well, if they don't touch you, then the other armies come down, then you go up.
Yeah.
But even changing small things, like when they did the Devilfish and they moved it up, or Breaches went up to points, it changed the list composition. And I think every army If it's outside of that 45 to 54 or 55%, then they need points decreases. But if it's in that window, even making a small change to make something go up by 5 points changes a list completely.
Yes.
So I expect some sort of balancing with that across the board, because then it becomes fair. But if it's targeting specific for Tau, then I don't see any major changes. I don't think anything needs to come down outside of the Crute. I think everything's pretty fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, fingers crossed. I'm excited to see what comes next for them. And yeah, let's get the Crute back in the game, GW. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
Kyle, it has been an absolute treat. I love hearing you talk Tau, and it's been a real pleasure. And I've learned an awful lot, and I am very excited. Maybe I'll have to try some Retaliation Cadre on TTS to scratch the itch. I'm quite excited.
How many rampages you got?
Oh, I haven't got any rampages, mate, but I'll plug some in. Why not? Let's do it.
Imagine, I don't know, a particular number of angry monkeys plus crisis suits descending from the heavens.
It's beautiful.
So you combat and you shoot good.
That sounds amazing. I'm going to do it. I'll give it a try. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about the greater good and get involved with your program?
On the internet.
On the internet.
It was actually quite funny. We were having a chat in our Discord before, and we used ChatGPT, or whatever it's called, ChatGPT, and we were actually researching. Honestly, go and do it. Put people's names into the chat, the AI, and it's hilarious. It gives like summaries of people. The one for NAS is really funny.
Oh my god, I'm going
to share it in our England group. But people can find me on the internet. I've got YouTube channel, and they've got all the links from my Discord. I'll send obviously the links and stuff to you.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll have those all in the description. Yeah.
But mainly, the way that you can find me is I do videos every now and again on YouTube, but my main focus is within the Discord. Yeah. I offer coaching services. I offer different tiers for every budget, depending on where you're at in your journey, whether you're a newer player, whether you're an intermediate or advanced player, it doesn't matter. I've got a budget for all. And I go through a lot of live content with my audience rather than just focusing on videos. It's like, come and chat to me, come and engage with me, bring me your problems, and I'll hopefully find you the solutions. I'm very much into, I always have been when I've kind of coached in other jobs, it's finding out what makes people tick and how to improve their performance through getting them to look at the game in a different way rather than just, here's a list, now go and win with it. Oh, you didn't win with it, you suck.
Yeah.
It's very much focusing on how can I allow you to not only improve, but to enjoy your time with this faction. Yeah. And, it's not about come and joining me forever, because some people just need that little bit of assistance
of course.
Or in, getting a fresh perspective on the faction. And that's what I specialize in. And obviously, it's not just working for me. It's working for a lot of other people in my Discord that are doing really well and helping spread the greater good. And it's a fantastic community. And I know a lot of people talk about community, but it really is. Having something that's just a safe zone where we don't get shit on for being Tau players. We're all positive. There's no negativity there. And I've also got the free community aspect to my Discord as well. So you don't have to pay me any money to be part of the free community element. So honestly, it's a great place to be. And if you haven't already checked it out, please click on the link below. Have a gander. And if you are interested in things like coaching one-to-one, or even got a few questions about which subscription tier might be best for you, just reach out to me at Commander Puretide in the Discord, DM me, and then I'll obviously look to give you some assistance and support to making the right choice. But that's me. That's my little spin.
100%. Amazing, guys. And if you want to level up with Tau, this is your guy. So absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching us. We'll be back again soon. I'm on the hunt for all these faction specialists right now, trying to collect some more. So I'll try and grab another one very soon. Do hit like and subscribe on the video, guys. And we will see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.